It's your girl, KV.
And Celine.
Today we are going to be talking about Cop City. And if you haven't heard about Cop City, it is something going on in Atlanta that has shaken the community and the people are upset. So the first article we're going to get into is called A Call to Funders to Defend Democracy, Why the Movement to Stop Cop City Must Continue. So the Stop Cop City movement was formed in reaction to a proposal to destroy Weelaunee Forest to build a privately operated enforcement training facility. So basically, they want to tear down a whole forest out in South Atlanta or South Atlanta Metro to build up this training grounds for police activity. So the Atlanta City Council voted to spend $30 to $50 million on Cop City of tax dollar money, that is. $30 to $50 million. And it's just so much stuff that $30 to $50 million
Could go towards?
in Atlanta. Like, we could talk about the school system, we could talk about the neighborhoods themselves, as far as after school programs, activities for kids to do, but no, they want to spend $50 million on Cop City. So there was record-breaking numbers among the protesters at the assembly, and the assembly went well past midnight. Like, I think I kind of stayed, I stayed online a bit to see what was going on with that because I knew that they were having the assembly, and I think they didn't end it until like 2 a.m. And I've never even heard of an assembly staying on that long. So 98% of the commenters asked them to not go forward with Cop City, but the council decided to ignore the concerns of the people and to go forward with it. Police and lawmakers are now using new and existing laws to increase surveillance of grassroots movements, increase pretrial detention, extend protracted legal fights, and establish harsher punishments. So the craziest part of this is the fact that Attorney General Carr ordered that APD raid Atlanta Solidarity Fund, which is a volunteer-run bail fund, and they arrested 3 of its leaders on charges of money laundering and charity fraud, which just sounds like some trumped-up charges because they're doing what they're supposed to do. So charity fraud is just like, okay, you guys are just looking for loopholes. Finding something to tear this organization down so that when you lock these people up for protesting, they can stay there, and you have all these harsher punishments. So as they said in the article, these are the acts of repression that they use to silence the voices trying to hold the government accountable. So if we can lock all the protesters up and we can get them on some trumped up charges to keep them in there or to give them harsher sentences than just, 10, 15, 30 days, we get them in there for years for protesting, then, who's going to hold the government accountable if everybody's in jail? Right. So that was the wildest part to me.
Yeah, and you didn't mention this, but I also saw in that same article, it said since January 2017 that 45 state legislators introduced 268 bills that restrict the right to protest. And I think what they're trying to do, like you said, is obviously keep people from protesting. And if they can do that, then of course they can just have an easier route of, being able to build Cop City or build other places like this in other communities as well. So I feel like this is just being used as like, a pawn to make even more Cop Cities pop up. And if they are able to like arrest people, then of course they're gonna use that scare tactic.
Exactly. And not just with building Cop City, but like anything that the people don't want done in their community, whether it's tearing down stores to put up corporations or tearing down housing projects, things of that nature. If you protest against it, now they have all these bills and they're trying to pass these laws to where, it's illegal to do so. You can't even voice your concerns and ask the government, the local government, what are their true reasonings for doing these things. You just have to sit there and quietly take it or be arrested.
Yeah, you can't hold the government accountable for their actions. And if you do, then you're at risk for getting locked up.
Exactly.
Even though it might not even be something worth being locked up, because you have a right to protest as long as it's peaceful, which in these accounts, of course, there's always somebody that might do something they're not supposed to do. But for the most part, it is peaceful protesting. I know the article also mentioned like 3 things that you could do in order to like avoid, you know, the protests going sideways or anything like that. And one of them was don't act out of fear of reaction to the narratives that are being painted. So of course, the media is mostly working on the side of the government. So if you see certain things that make you very emotional about the situation, make sure that when you're going out to protest that you're not reacting off of those narratives that you see. Like make sure that you're in the moment and you're doing it for a good cause.
And side note, that is the main reason that I don't protest, because I can get very emotional.
Yeah,
I will be the person out there cursing the police out and, you know, just all out of line. So I, you know, my workings in the protest is behind the scenes.
Me too. I feel like I'm way better behind the scenes, so I do get emotional.
I'm going to be out there a little too rowdy, like, so you won't see me in the streets.
The second one is just making sure that you put safety, security, and legal support in front of the movement. So when you're doing the movement or whatever, make sure that you are putting your safety first, but also the safety of the people around you. Same with security. If you don't have to necessarily yell in the cop face, just try to avoid that, because you just don't know how that person is going to react. They may have had a long day, and then now they're gassing you with stuff just because they're in a bad mood and nobody got time for that. And then
that's just what they're
right,
trained
exactly.
to do.
That's already what they've been told to do. If you get too close to them, go ahead and spray you out. Don't want to hear that. Don't want to see it on the news or anything like that. So making sure that you just put your safety and security first, and then have a trusted partner that guarantees the needs. So like making sure that if you do go protest, that maybe you go with somebody, or you have some kind of support system that knows that you're out there, so that way you're not like, if you do get locked up or something goes wrong, they at least know where you are and what's going on. You had mentioned that it was proposed for it to be $30 to $50 million, but at this time they've already started, like, you know, adding more fees and stuff into it. So they're saying that they're now proposing that it'd be closer to $90 million for the public safety training center that they're trying to build. So I know they said that it was going to be 30 to 50, but that's just taxpayer money. They're trying to get public. Well, I guess private donations,
corporate foundations,
to pay the rest of that amount for the $90 million that's proposed. The area is in the South River Forest, and it's a green space, so it's a naturally, it could be like used for other things. It's described as the 4 lungs of Atlanta. One of the 4 lungs of Atlanta. The city owns a portion of the land and once known as the old Atlanta Prison Farm, and it's leasing about 85 acres of its own to the Atlanta Police Foundation. And they want to, what they're dubbing it or calling it is Cop City.
So that was a major point for me, that they refer to this forest as one of the 4 lungs that, you know, work for Atlanta, basically, because with the traffic and with all of the, you know, industry and everything, like, we need those trees to clean the air. Like, are we forgetting nature's role in life? So as, you know, an environmentalist, that's the part that really struck me, because you're going to tear down this whole forest to build Cop City, something that they really don't need in the first place. So yeah, that was pretty wild.
Yeah. Next title of the article is Cop City in Atlanta is the future of America. Why Cop City is a war for the future of urban America. They're claiming that this is going to be a state-of-the-art training facility. It's going to have a gun range, a 4-story burn tower for firefighter training, a small mock city, and they're saying that it's desperately needed to replace the outdated facility and woo in new recruits. So my thought about that, just that part of it is, you know how they say that the old facility is so outdated, why can't they just do some updates to that facility instead of creating a whole new facility? I mean, and even with the whole, like, ooh, we're gonna woo in recruits, that money could be better spent on other things if they just, redid the current outdated facility. They said that they're gonna have better trained cops because the facility will be built. And that's not necessarily true, in my opinion.
My question was better trained to do what? Are they better trained to arrest more people? Are they better trained to arrest people more safely? Like, better trained to do what on whose agenda.
Right.
And the thing about this article, it struck me as like one of those articles that want you to feel something. You know what I mean? Like they described everything with feeling and emotion in it. And so like they called the area, they described the site as a no man's land. Like, oh, they're not using it for anything now. It's just, you know, some auto shops, a shuttered sewage plant, you know, a youth detention center. Like, oh, it's already been used for cop stuff and nobody's really out there now. So why wouldn't we just further use it for that? So that was one thing I really took from this article as well.
Right. And then as far as like the mock city that they're trying to build, it said that it included like a mock village with a school, apartments, a nightclub, convenience stores, and the things that they're like, you know, preparing this mock city to have those areas is looking very much focused on urban environments. The article also stated that they were the sales pitch that they're using, you know, for building this cop city is America's safest big city. Like, okay, and it's aimed at luring more tech companies and startups and speeding up the gentrification of that already African American minority to build, like, you know, the city back up for it to be more of like an African minority city again. And they're saying that like a lot of people, you know Atlanta as the black Mecca of the South.
Right.
And so their whole thought process is they need to make it safer, like
safer / wider.
Yeah.
Which was my big problem, because it's like they just flat out said it, like, we're trying to speed up gentrification. So if we can get the streets safer, then, you know, the white people will come in and, you know, we can move these black people out. They can go to more urban areas that we've, you know, designed them to be in these secluded areas. And we'll just have the biggest, safest city that America has. And it was just like, you know, tell us you don't like black people without telling us you don't like black people.
Right. They also mentioned like that the black population has plunged. It went from 62% to 47%, with many African Americans fleeing the city. Then that's, you know, after, you know, everything that happened in 2020 with the protesting that happened there. There's been like a lot of things that have happened in the past couple of years that have resulted in a lot of black people feeling like they want to leave that area and go other places. So yeah.
So some refer to Cop City as the centerpiece of the city's establishment plan for doubling down on militarized warrior cop policing that, as you mentioned, they did a lot of protests against in 2020. And, you know, the thought of just having like a militarized cop establishment within the city is just kind of like, why do we need all of that? This isn't, you know, we're not in the military. These people aren't just, you know, some crazy things go on in Atlanta. Don't get me wrong, but to this level, like, no, it's not to this level where we need a completely militarized Atlanta Police Department. Right.
And it also kind of went into like what we were kind of talking about earlier with, you know, the different shock tactics that they might use with protesters, like murky circumstances as far as domestic terrorists, that's what they call it, raiding a bail fund office to charge the leaders, saying that they were doing money laundering. All those things are like used to threaten people in the society, so that way they don't feel they don't feel comfortable protesting and like making their voice heard and saying, hey, I don't want this in my city.
So another thing that struck me from this article is they mentioned that at the site where they plan to build Cop City, they have all type of police cars, marked and unmarked, there to patrol the area and make sure that there are no protesters. And they mentioned that the site is also the site of the old Atlanta prison farm, where mostly black men, you know, did hard time in this jail facility. And it just feels like you're keeping up with that tradition. That's exactly what you want to build Cop City up for, is to jail black people for hard time, for, you know, things that probably don't even deserve jail times, especially with, you know, the mention of all of these bills and laws that they're trying to pass for protesting. So surprising to me, which I guess is not so surprising because anybody can be bought out. the number of black politicians and leaders that were for this. Like when I saw the picture of like, who was for it, who was against it, I was pretty astonished. Like I was taken aback. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. I think that was kind of surprising to me too, because you would think that it wouldn't be that way, but I guess I don't know. I try to look at everything from both sides. So I'm like, maybe in a political stance, like maybe I do think that police are important, but I think the way that people make them important has changed over the time. So like when a police officer was first or supposed to be a police officer, it's to keep the community safe.
Right.
I don't think necessarily now that they have like the same, whatever training that they're saying they're doing to keep people safe, it's not necessarily to keep them safe. It's usually based off of things that they need to get done. So like giving out tickets, that's not necessarily keeping people safe. Thinking somebody is robbing a store because they're black and they have a hoodie on, that's not necessarily a reason, to keep how are you keeping the community safe by the way that you're training people. So I feel like if you are going to spend money to, bring cops into a city, the training needs to be focused on the community that it's serving. And a lot of times they're not trying to figure out how they can better serve the community. They should be at schools, like supporting the children, like, making them feel good about certain things, like showing them. I feel like it's one of those things where you got to showcase a positive role in it. And I don't think the cops that they're trying to bring in or the way that they're going about it is very positive for black people, at least. Black people don't feel safe. They feel more at risk when there's a lot of cops around.
Exactly that. And so they are promoting the use of cameras on every corner and also a cop living, they didn't say on every street, but it was kind of like they want cops in all neighborhoods, which can be terrible. Just putting somebody in a neighborhood just so that there can be, police surveillance there is ridiculous. How about we recruit people that actually live in those neighborhoods and know those neighborhoods and, know how to better
interact. Like it's more about the interaction with me. Exactly. I feel like it's not a problem with the cops, but it's like if you have no real interaction with the community, then what are you doing there? Like
exactly. You're just there to police people
and nobody want to be policed all the time. At their house. No,
I always think about the image that I always have in my head is when the black kids were like having a pool party and somebody called the cops on them because the music was too loud, and then it winded up with a cop had a young girl on the ground with their knee in her bag.
Yeah.
Like what constituted that from a call about loud music? You know what I mean? So stuff like that is what I worry about when it comes to cops just being dropped off to live in these neighborhoods.
Same. That's my biggest concern is if you're not a part of the community or you're not really trying to interact with the community to like better it, then I don't think you should be there. Even if you are a cop and you're trying to police or whatever.
I know it seems weird, like we got all this urban stuff, but if I'm patrolling advance for the homes, because that's where I was, if that's where I'm patrolling, I need to know how to survive because I ain't grew up shooting dice. But I grew up trying to be a police officer, so I do need to know what like you said, what's going on, and I'm not there to patrol, as you said, like I'm not there to surveillance. I'm there straight trying to figure out what the hell they doing, what they shooting, like what's going on, like what do I need to be focused on over here? They just shooting dice for their money, and I ain't fucking with you. But at the same time, I still got to be over here because we got drug activity. Like they call me officer friendly because I was a light switch. Like I'm cool, y'all do y'all thing, but don't fuck up. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm straight, I'm cool. I patrol Hollywood, like you said. I grew up in Ridgecrest. I patrol Hollywood. I was undercover on Hollywood. Like I locked up some people I knew that I didn't want to lock up. But it was the reality of this is the job I chose. Like it was a lot of folks I let go. It was a lot of white people I locked up. A lot of Rose College kids. You know what I mean? That I sent on the way. They got kicked out of school because they had 8 balls in their glove compartment. But it's just a matter of, like y'all said, who you are when you've been, because you get some officers that came from Bartlett High that ain't never fought in their life.
Exactly.
And they cry in the academy when they got to box somebody like me that grew up fighting my cousins or grew up fighting just period. So they crying in the boxing ring, but this is somebody that's been graduated to be a police officer.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of, oh, you want to be a police? Here's your gun. Let's go. Don't hire no new people. How long the remodeling take?
It's always a like, what if?
It's a give and take. So
Or do it like
So
it
are
maybe,
you for Cop City? And this isn't a judgmental question, just.
I think it's necessary. I think if they're gonna do like the FBI training for central, like Glencoe, Georgia has the central training for all federal agents. That shit is bomb. Like when I went there, I learned how not to escalate the situation. If you overreact, you know what I mean? Like it taught me a lot. Now police, it's a lot of stuff. Like you said something about it being, I wrote it down. You said militarized cop establishment. You gotta remember, police are paramilitary. Like that's how it's operated. That's the whole structure. Sergeant, colonel, all that. It's already paramilitary. So when you got motherfuckers in Atlanta, the gas stations with rifles and stuff, that's what they seeing. Them the cop cams they getting. So it's like, damn, we got these folks out here with a little 9 that's only holding 10 to 15. Right. That's what they thinking about. You know what I mean? And then you got cops complaining. I'm going up against JoJo big time. And he down there, he pulling something out the trunk. Switch on. You know what I mean? Trying to hit him. That shit. And they got switches and all this other stuff. Like, so it's like, do you not? You gonna give a cop a handgun and tell him just this is what you chose? Here your $30 an hour, $20 an hour, and then you got the dope dealers come by and in 2 seconds empty the clip with a switch. Like you gotta give them something to protect themselves. So Cop City, I don't know what that is gonna entail because we will never know what they're really training them because I can tell you what they're training the APD that they ain't gonna never tell nobody. You know what I mean? But we'll never know what they're really training, but I don't know if it needs to be that big unless they're gonna be bringing every single police department there to train on a one standard. That's the only reason I would be for it. If every police department had to follow one standard, so that no matter what happens in whatever city, Baltimore, Memphis, you do this, but the standard for every city, cop in every state, in all 50 states is this. You couldn't do that, and you did it. Because if you go to Texas, it's different for cops.
Exactly.
You go to Florida, they can do this. So, no, I don't agree with it because it's only going to be for them. If it was for everybody, to put everybody on the same page so that the whole community know this is how cops operate.
This next article, Atlanta's Relenting, blah, blah, blah. This next article, Atlanta's Unrelenting Cop City Crusade. So this article talked about the Democratic-controlled city council voted 11-4 in favor of Cop City, despite the years of protests and the over 200 people that were protested during this public interest meeting. And like I mentioned earlier in the episode, this assembly went well into the night. Like these things usually wrap up at like 7, 8 o'clock, like, get on home for dinner. But no, those people, and it was people still lined up. Like I saw the pictures in the video because I used to live in Atlanta for about 10 years. So I'm still very much like plugged into the news thing there. I still have all of those things on my Twitter and on my social media so that I can keep up with what's going on. And it was, like they said, well over 200 people lined up to speak. They didn't care what time it was. They were still there 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, standing strong to get their voice heard. And they still voted 11-4 in favor of Cop City. This article also refers to the act of abusive policing that is very harmful to communities. And the citizens, they want to avoid this and propose equitable, community-focused alternatives based on cohesive relationships between the community and the city leadership. Mm-hmm. So having, more of a hand in what's going on, and at least having your voice heard and not just knowing that, it's going to be a police on this corner and this corner and this corner. There's going to be cameras right above, the hot spots and things like that. At least they're having an input on what is happening in their neighborhood. Even though there may need to be policing in certain neighborhoods, they, can have a more of an opinion or more of their thoughts at least heard.
And I think that's where most people, feel the safest. It's like if you have a relationship, that's the thing. Most of the time it's no relationship between the police officer or your leadership. So the fact that over 200 people came out to, even state how they feel about it and they feel like their voices still weren't heard, I think that's when people start being like, well, if I'm doing this, what am I doing it for? If I don't even get my voice heard, y'all aren't hearing the concerns that we have with y'all building Cop City and stuff of that nature. I know that they're doing a referendum to try to appeal, everything before the next election. So we'll just have to see how that goes for them. And so our final article was called "What the Fight Over Atlanta's Cop City Reveals About Policing Protests." And this article, it just talks about, just wrapping everything up about the Atlanta training complex and what is its purpose for being built. The reason for building them, obviously, is they think that it will help with, when a police officer is put in those negative situations. But all in all, those buildings have cost over 1.2 billion for the training complexes for those ones in those states. They also have thought about building one in Chicago and the new one that they're trying to build in Atlanta.
So let us know how you feel. Are you for or against Cop City? And if you're against it, what would be some alternatives that you propose? Sound off in the comments.
So this is a wrap for this episode. I hope y'all enjoyed it. You can follow us on Instagram, which is Hood Health Report, as well as Facebook and Twitter, Hood Health Pod.
We also have a TikTok page now, Hood Health Report. Follow us there.
Yeah.
Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. All of the links will be in the descriptions and the bios for you to click on easily.
Tap, like, comment, do it all.
Subscribe, all of the things. Share it with a friend.
Yes.
Share it on your social media.
If you have a TikTok, make a little video, send it.
Let us know you're out there watching, guys. All right, that's it for this episode. Bye.